Are you serious? Are you serious, folks? The chaos continues along the Gaza border with Israel as Israeli troops trying to hold back now thousands of Palestinians that are trying to push themselves over the border. George Soros must be behind this because this is very similar to what was going on in Europe during the migrant crisis when thousands of people were coming and pouring over the borders of different nations in the European Union. Well, anyway, here's what's going on. Israeli troops have, in the confrontation, have now wounded at least 70 Palestinians among the crowds demonstrating at the Gaza-Israeli border today. And according to health officials, this has been one of the deadliest days of unrest in the area in years. Matter of fact, thousands of people marched through the streets of Gaza for the funerals for the 15 people that were killed yesterday during their confrontation with the Israeli defense forces along the border of Israel. On a national day of mourning was observed in the enclave in the West Bank. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas said Israel was responsible for the violence. Are you serious? How can Israel be responsible for the violence when it's 30,000 Palestinians trying to run over the border? And the United Nations agree with them. It's unbelievable. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel was protecting its sovereignty and its citizens. Matter of fact, an Israeli military spokesman said he was checking the details of Saturday's unrest. It broke out with Palestinians gathered on the border between the Hamas-run Gaza Strip and Israel. And, of course, they started throwing stones. Palestinian health officials said 70 Palestinians have been wounded. 15 Palestinians were killed by Israeli security forces and confronting protesters. The military said some had shot at them, rolling burning tires and throwing rocks and petroleum firebombs toward the troops across the border. Hamas said 5 of their members of its armed wing. Israel said 8 of the 15 dead belonged to Hamas and designated a terrorist group by Israel and the Western nations of the world. Tens of thousands of Palestinians had gathered Friday along the fence, the 40-mile border where tents have been now erected for a planned 6 weeks of this, pressing for the right to return, they say, to take over the promised land, which is now, of course, the nation of Israel and has been for nearly 70 years. But hundreds of Palestinian youths have ignored the rules and the law, and they're calling for organizers, and the Israeli military is trying to stay away from this frontier, but they can't because the violence continues to break out. The protest, organized by Hamas, the radical left-wing terrorist organization who has hijacked the Palestinian people, is now scheduled to culminate. The 6 weeks of violence and rage will take all the way till May 15th. That's the day that the Palestinians commemorate what they call Nakba, or catastrophe, when hundreds of thousands of Palestinians fled in 1948, the year the nation of Israel then was created. Israel has long ruled out any return of the Palestinians, although a lot of Palestinian Arabs live in Jerusalem and in East Jerusalem and in the West Bank. But the Arabs want to wipe out the Jewish majority. It says refugees should resettle in a future state called Palestine, which of course would include the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. Peace talks to that end have been frozen since 2014. Israel withdrew its troops and settlers from Gaza in 2005, but still maintains tight control of the land and sea borders. Egypt as also keeps its border with Gaza largely closed. And Abbas says that the message of the Palestinian people is clear. The Palestinians believe that they are the legitimate owners of the nation of Israel, and they want the Jews removed. Now, Israeli military spokesman Brigadier General Manalis said Hamas was using the protest as a guise to launch attacks against Israel and ignite the area. He said the violence was likely to continue. Of course, May 14th will be the 70th anniversary of Israel as a nation, and the United States of America will open its U.S. embassy in Jerusalem. Quote, "We won't let this turn into a ping pong zone where they penetrate a terrorist act and we respond with a pinpoint action. If this continues, we will have no choice but to respond inside the Gaza Strip and shut this protest down." That's when it would get really bloody and really ugly. And Israel doesn't want to do it, but they're not going to continue to let what they're watching take place to continue. They'll go in and they will crush Hamas and bring this to a close. So the United Nations Secretary General Anton Guterres, has called for an independent investigation into Friday's bloodshed and appealed for all sides to refrain. Israel has no problem refraining. Just tell the Palestinians to go back home, and it's over. But so it's getting ugly out there, guys. We're on the brink of an intifada. This is the Passover as it's just now ending, and we go into the Feast of the Unleavened Bread. We approach, of course, Sunday morning, the Feast of the First Fruits, also Resurrection Sunday. The world knows it as Easter Sunday. I like to say Resurrection Sunday is when Christ rose from the dead to give all of humanity the ability, the opportunity to be reconciled to God. Oh, how we need this. How we need Yeshua, the Lord Jesus Christ, in an hour of such turmoil. But what you're witnessing and what you're watching, folks, is actually biblical prophecy. You are watching the armies compassing Jerusalem. You are looking at now the cup of trembling, the burdensome stone for all people, Jerusalem. The Temple Mount is the place where the three religions of the apocalypse will converge and are converging. That is Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. There's no question we are living in the days the Bible said would come. When they say there's peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh. This is now. Give your life to Jesus Christ. Shalom, shalom, shalom to everyone. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for the people, and pray for everybody. Pray for the Jews. Pray for the Palestinians. Pray for the entire Middle East region and the world. We're in the last days. We're on the brink of the beast. We're on the edge of eternity. We're at the apocalyptic hour. Something biblical is going on with the signs of the second coming of Christ. Calm down. Get some coffee, but pray and pray and pray. We are in the last days.